Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Barry Coombs, and I work for a company called Computer World. First of all, thank you ever so much, and thank you for them for allowing us to use the Zoom account to host these working from home talks. For those of you that haven't attended any of them, from my perspective, I thought while everyone was kind of caught up at home and we're in this very strange situation, what better time to spend some time improving ourselves, learning from others, and building a little bit of community. So I'm pleased to have done 4 of these now. I think this is the end of the first series, and then we might mix it up for the next round and do some live conversations and things like that. So if there's anyone you would like to see on the next series of Working From Home Talks, please let me know. Or indeed yourself, if you'd like to talk about a subject, let me know and we can add those to the agenda. So today we are very lucky to have 2 fantastic speakers. So I'd like to introduce Larry Levine and Grace Jones to join me. Guys, please turn your cameras on, turn your microphones on, and join me on the Working From Home Talk.
Hey, Barry, how's it going?
I'm good,
hey, Grace.
Thank you very much.
Hello there, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Excuse the kind of darkness behind me. The sun's rising where I live, so.
So Larry, maybe you should explain to the audience, where are you? You're in a very different time zone to most of us on the talk.
I am. So I'm the polar opposite of where both of you are right now. So the sun's just coming up in Los Angeles, California.
Fantastic. And every time we meet, we talk about the weather. I've been out in the garden prior to this. It's absolutely beautiful, but you will laugh. I'm starting to feel it's a little bit too hot out there for me to sit in there in the midday sun, which I'm sure is not touching the temperature that you guys get in the summer.
No, because I just sent you an email this morning. I told you I had to convert my phone to Celsius to tell you what the temperature is going to be this weekend.
We're British, so it's the first question that we always ask when we talk to you, Larry. So it's absolutely fantastic. And Grace, whereabouts are you based?
Sunny Exmouth in Devon.
Oh, fantastic! Lovely part of the world.
Yeah, beautiful.
Fantastic. So let's start by Larry. Do you just want to give us a little bit of an introduction, who you are, kind of what your background is, and then afterwards we'll go over to Grace before beginning today's Working From Home Talks.
Sure. Thanks, Barry. My name's Larry Levine. I'm the author of Selling from the Heart. I bring a very unique message to the world, and I'll just say the sales and of the business world. I spent almost 30 years in the office technology channel in Los Angeles, California, probably one of the most competitive markets in the United States. I had a life-altering moment happen to me at 50 years old. I'm 55 years old, and I found myself at 50 without a job. And I decided, you know what, this was a perfect time for me to deliver a message back out to the business world in why sincerity, substance, and heart matters. And I think if there's a time where that message really resonates, it's now, Barry.
Fantastic. And I completely agree with you, Larry. And Grace, a little bit, your background, what do you do?
So I'm a speaker and a coach, and I haven't always been a speaker and a coach, and I will tell you a bit more about that in the talk. But now I'm working for myself, enjoying it, love helping people. I'm passionate about all things concerned with mindset. So, we are what we think, not just what we eat. And the changes that we can actually make once we become aware of how we think, we can actually start to do things about it to get better results.
Fantastic. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from you both. And I think there'll be a really good synergy as well between your 2 presentations, and really looking forward to that. So I think without any further ado, to kind of get on with today's content, Grace and I will go offline. Larry, we'll pass over to you. Feel free to take it on from there.
Perfect. As you guys are doing that, I'll just quickly share my screen and we'll be ready to roll. So what I'd ask, and thank you, Barry, for allowing me the opportunity to share this, is what I'd ask everybody to do, if you don't mind, is grab a sheet of paper. As the screen's loading, grab a sheet of paper, take some notes, and I'm going to ask you, over the next 25 minutes that we're together, is an invest in opening your mind a little bit, invest in thinking as we're going through the times that we're going through right now. And, we can add all the adjectives to it. We can add uncertain times, we can add crisis, we can add turbulent, we can add troubled. We can all agree. But what's really interesting is the words, right? The words that people are using right now throughout the world, whether that be authenticity, whether that be genuine, whether that be caring. I firmly agree with all those words. I'm a firm believer in this. Authenticity does matter in today's business world and within the sales world. I have this saying, authenticity is a lifestyle. It's not a light switch. But maybe the times that we're going through right now, maybe that is the light switch that a lot of people need to say, you know what? Authenticity does matter. We have to dig deep inside of us. And I firmly believe in order to change and in order to become authentic, which I'm a firm believer in this, everybody is authentic. It's up to us. It's the internal work that we all need to do. And I think this is the time to do it. And I'm going to say this and we'll move on. So I'm going to ask everybody, as you go through this, then think about this after we get done this morning or this afternoon by you. What do I need to do? What do we collectively need to do to double down on ourselves through these times? And I'd like to start this off and get people thinking. This is a quote from a good friend of mine, Bob Berg. And Bob Berg wrote the series of books called The Go-Giver. And I firmly believe this, and I think everybody listening will believe this. All things being equal, people buy from and refer people they know, like, and trust. We can all agree to that. People buy from and refer people they know, like, and trust. But now I'd like to add a little twist onto this, and here's the twist. It's how do you become this person when somebody has not met you before? And I want us to think about that in the context of what's going on right now. If we all can agree that people buy from and refer people they know, like, and trust, couple things is, are you referable? Now, here's the next part of this. In the context of what we're going through right now, are you digitally referable? Are you digitally referable within your client base? Are you digitally referable within your centers of influence? Are you digitally referable within your marketplace? And maybe just jot that question down real quick, and then you guys can think about it. Just ask yourself, just jot it down. Am I digitally referable? And what does that mean? And this is ever so present right now. I'm a firm believer in this. Throughout the world, throughout the business world, regardless of what sales role you're in, whether you're just starting out in sales, whether you've been in sales for a little while, or whether you're tenured in sales, we're operating with a crisis of trust. Trust, in my opinion, is at an all-time low. It's so low we can step over it, and that's unfortunate. And we're living through it right now. The trust barometer, I think, hasn't been as this low in a very, very, very long time. So in addition to the lack of trust, I think the BS meters, right? People's ears, the radar is tuned in at an all-time high. And right now, as we're going through the crisis that we're going through, people are tuned into what you're saying, how you're saying it, and the words you're using. And I want us to think about that. The last one is there's rampant skepticism, and rightfully so. So I'd ask everybody to think about this as we're going through this, as you're self-reflecting, as you're figuring out, when the light turns green and we go back to a semblance of whatever normal is, because what normal is normal is, right? What's normal to me might be different to you, and that's perfect. But let's look at this for a moment. How do we overcome the lack of trust? How do we overcome the skepticism that's running rampant? And how do we more effectively use the words in our messaging to overcome the lack of trust? And here's what I'd like for us to think about. So how do you, right? How does each individual out there who's watching this, I want us to think about this. How do we achieve equal business stature out in our marketplace? So I want us to put our thinking caps on for a moment. Wherever you're calling at, whatever levels inside organizations you're calling into, how do you achieve equal business stature? So if you're calling into, mid-level decision makers, or if you're calling into lower level decision makers, or for that matter, you're calling up into the executive suite, in my opinion, the fastest way you get equal business stature with people is you walk, talk, and act like them. You use their language. You engage in conversations they understand. which means in the business and in the sales context is conversations not about us in an organization. It's using words, it's using messaging, it's using conversation that they can relate to, which is the language they speak. That's how you're going to capture the attention of somebody. And that's how you're going to create an aligned value. And I think if we can really understand and grasp those three things, you'll start overcoming the perception, which leads right into my next thing is I want us to think about this for a moment. I want us to think about how are you perceived in the market today? And let's just think about this for a moment. When we talk about perception, I'm a firm believer in this. Perception is reality. And what goes on in my crazy mind, and I'd ask for you all to think about this as well, you got one great shot to make a first impression. Because if you don't make that great first impression, and if perception is important, if you don't make that first memorable, great first impression, you're swimming upstream. And I always say you're like a salmon swimming upstream. So there's two parts of perception. And again, I want full disclosure here. I don't have a PhD in human behavior. I don't have a PhD in psychology. I'm throwing my hands up on this one. I earned a PhD from getting the you-know-what kicked out of me selling office technology in downtown Los Angeles my whole entire career. I say this because you learn things along the way. We all have aha moments, but one thing that I was really astute to, and I'd ask people to think about this as a crisis that we're going through, if perception matters, then two things. How are you perceived in the market right now? And how would you like to be perceived in the market right now? There's absolutely two different views on this. So I want us to think about how are you perceived in the market and how would you like to be perceived? And maybe jot those down and then think about it for one simple reason. I think the fastest way to build trust, the single fastest way to build trust is wrap your head around what authenticity truly means. Now, this might be tough for some people, but I firmly believe this. We all are authentic. It's up to us if we choose to be authentic. And it's around two things, substance and sincerity. If you can combine both of those and bring your authentic self to the marketplace, you will have no competition. So what do I mean by substance? Quite frankly, substance, real simple, vanilla definition of substance in my mind is this. Are you bringing the goods? Are you bringing the business goods to the community? Are you bringing the business goods to your clients? Are you bringing the business goods to your future clients, which would be your prospects? Are you educating them? Are you engaging with them? Are you exciting them into conversations? Are you leading with insight? Are you helping them do better business? To me, that's substance. Sincerity part of this is walk, talk, live, and breathe what you say. Be sincere with it. And if you're not, you're going to get exposed. You're going to get exposed real quick. If we went back, and the reason why I say exposed, it's simple. If there's a lack of trust and there's rampant skepticism and our ears are at an all-time high with what we're really paying attention to, people can smell sincerity instantaneously, but they can smell insincerity just as fast. If you can marry those two things together, I promise you this, you will help yourself along the way. But here's what I'd like for us to all think about. What causes inauthenticity? And I want to put a break on this for a moment. And I want to peel this thing back for just a quick moment. Is we all have, I throw it out there. I don't hide from anything. I'm just radically transparent. I'm going to ask people in your marketplace, within your lines of work, this is the time to bring the best version of yourself to the forefront. Because inauthenticity runs rampant, just like skepticism runs rampant. Get comfortable with who you are. Bring that best version of yourself to your marketplace. And there might be some that are going, Larry, I'm not quite sure I get what you're talking about. That's okay. But what I'd ask for you to think about, go back to your marketplace, go back to your customers, go back to your clients, however you define them. Ask your marketplace, what do they crave? What do they crave from business leaders? What do they crave from the people who take care of them? What do they crave from their salespeople? And they will tell you. They will tell you things like, I want somebody who cares. I want someone who's real, genuine, somebody I can relate to, somebody who's relevant in the marketplace, somebody who can help me do better business. That's what I'm going to ask you. Dig down deep inside and uncover who your authentic self is. And as we bring this to a close, I'm going to share just a couple of these things with you. Is I want us to really understand and grasp the whole concept around value. Now, value is what value is, right? Value is in the eye of the beholder. But as you start thinking about your relationships and building rock solid, meaningful, deep, meaningful connections with your customers, your clients, I want us to think about it in two ways. And if you'll see this, it'll say on the pointing to the up screen, you'll see something that says articulating value. Moving on the bottom of the screen, it'll say meaningful conversations. If there's two things that I see many, many, many across the world struggle with, it's these two things. Can you clearly articulate value? Can you clearly articulate why you? And can you engage in meaningful conversations with people? But here's what we're all struggling with straight across the world. And digital media, social media has done this, and I'm a massive, massive proponent of social. It's social that brought me to this session this morning or this afternoon by you. We're all fighting to be seen. We're all fighting to be heard. I firmly believe, right, we all have to be seen in the marketplace, but what do you have to say once you get seen? Can you clearly articulate value, and can you engage in meaningful conversations out in the marketplace? So if we look at that, you're going to see a leaky bucket and you're going to see an empty suit. Empty suit, I love, it's chapter 10 of Selling from the Heart. In simple terms, I feel deep down in my heart that if you struggle mightily to clearly articulate value, if you struggle to engage in effective, meaningful business conversations, you're going to have a leaky bucket. In other words, you're going to have a poor funnel. And it's going to have holes all over the place. But here's something else. There might be some people out there that can drive somewhat of an effective conversation, but they don't know why them. They can't clearly articulate value. They're there. To me, that's an empty suit. And I'm not here to disrespect anybody when I say an empty suit, but I'm going to put a break on this and ask people to think about it. If we take our glasses off and we look at an empty suit through the mind of a buyer, through the mind of your clients, through the mind of someone in your marketplace, if we're not educating, if we're not bringing the goods, if we're not being sincere, if we don't show that we care, they view us as an empty suit. Somebody who's just there, but not really there to help somebody do better business. So as we go through this, I'd like everybody to think about this. What does a relationship look like in your world? Now let's stop and think about that for a moment. I'm not here to say that you all have bad relationships. That's not the meaning behind this. But what I'd like for us to think about is this. We all say we have great relationships with our customers, but let's define what the relationship is. Is the relationship that you have with your customer, is that what they think the relationship is? And then I'm going to throw something out there. It's me being me, and my apologies up front for it. But I'd ask for you to think about this. What are you doing to invest in the relationship with your customers? How are you growing, nurturing? How are you helping them do better business? And it's hard to do this if you fail to see your customers every 2 to 3 times a year. You can't effectively do that. I'm going to ask you, let's be personable. Let's stop hiding behind our keyboards. Let's push ourselves through our keyboards. We're living in this world right now where we're all working from home. I'm going to ask everybody, the fastest way that you guys can connect with somebody is get to their heart. The faster you can connect with somebody, the faster you can get to the heart, the faster you're going to get to what really matters. Simple equation: vulnerability plus humility plus personality, to me, is a human equation. So as we wrap up, the effects of authenticity on connecting is really simple. If you guys can learn how to bring sincerity, substance, truly internalize it, and truly comprehend what it means, obviously those trust meters go way up. Those BS meters are removed because you're confident, you're self-confident in your message. The skepticism is removed because you're delivering a clear and concise message. And on that note, I appreciate sharing a little bit of time with you all this afternoon. You can find any daily inspiration from me at sellingfromtheheart.net/daily. And it's an honor. It's a true honor to be able to share what Selling from the Heart and relationship building is all about. Thanks, Barry.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much, Larry, for sharing that message with us. And as you know, it resonates with me quite a lot. I've been involved around sales. I'm the secret salesperson, is what I've always said, because I work in pre-sales. So that means I don't have to say that I'm the salesperson. And for me, it is all around that authenticity. It's around having the knowledge. It's certainly in a pre-sales role. And I know a number of the people that have joined today are in those pre-sales role, that their kind of value is in that. And I think we can all grow that authenticity. In terms of, so if anyone's got any question, please use the Q&A or the chat functionality to get the questions over for Larry. A question for me, first of all. So kind of with everything that's going on at the moment, there will be lots of people that are trying to keep their businesses going, trying to keep their pipeline going. What would be free, actionable things that you would recommend people are doing today to build new connections, to attempt to keep the wheels in motion?
The first one is, I would reach out to every single customer that you have and change the conversation. That'd be the very first thing. And when I say change the conversation, Barry, it's not calling them, and it's not calling them up and saying, hey, how are you? And things like that, because right now they're getting asked that question all the time. But it's being able to call each and every one of your customers and say, hey, you know what, Barry? I was thinking about you. I want to make sure that you and your team are doing all right. This is not normal times that we're all going through. I get it. I understand. Thank you for doing business with me over the past year. What have you learned over the last 45 days in your business? What are some ahas? How have you gotten creative through this process, and what's it look like moving forward? Mm-hmm. If you can do that, that would be one. You'll learn so much. Second is, I would start connecting the dots inside your customer base. In other words, start connecting high, wide, and deep inside your customer base. And when I say connect, I say understand what social platforms your customers communicate on. Start connecting to upper level, mid-level, lower level decision makers. You're 1 degree of separation from your best sales opportunity. Most people don't know it because they're not connected to their customers. Mm-hmm. And then the last thing is I would double down and invest and get to know who you are. And what I mean by that is really internalize, what you're going through. What does that look like? What can I learn? What can I educate myself on? It's the whole, is a glass half full or half empty?
Definitely.
And I think if we can do those 3 things, and there's a bunch of things that we can do, but I think if we do those 3 immediate things, once this light turns green, you'll set yourself up for a very successful 2020. And as you push into 2021.
Fantastic. So another question now coming from the chat. So how do you know when you've got the full connection, that you've kind of got the heart engaged, and it's time to kind of take that relationship to the next level to kind of, I think what we
Well,
find,
thanks, Megan.
I think it's a part that we hear people are building great friendships. They're doing some good things on social media where they're building those friendships. They've got a bit of the heart, but they then almost feel a little bit guilty that they've got to try and sell something to that person. So I mean, what would your recommendation be?
Oh, wow. I don't think we have enough time to really peel this one back, but I'll keep it really short. And again, there's a lot of crazy things that go on in my head when it comes to this. And I've removed that barrier. And I'm going to take just a little bit of time just to peel this one back to get to Megan's question. But I know for a fact when I get to somebody's heart, is when I, whether that be in the tone of their voice, whether that be if I'm looking at them like you and I are having this conversation now, you can sense maybe their eyeballs start to bug a little bit, right? You can see their body language, but here's how I know I get to somebody's heart is I go first. I go first 100% of the time. I tell a deep, dark secret. I tell something that's touched my heart. I've shared a story. And the reason why I do that is more often than not, the next thing that comes out of that person's mouth is a story that's touched their heart. And the minute that happens, there's some alignment right there, Barry. Changes the whole course of the conversation. Then I don't mind asking those tough questions. And those tough questions are business related questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once I can get to somebody's heart, aligning it with a story by me going first and they sharing something that touched their heart, then it's really easy. I can just say, Barry, we've all gone through some crazy times. What have you learned? What's going on? What's the last 2 to 3 weeks look like? What's one obstacle you've had to overcome? What's one barrier that's keeping you from moving forward once the light turns green? What's that look like? It's changing the conversation. And if you can do that, you'll start uncovering what's really going on inside your client base.
Fantastic. And I think from my perspective, it's about that belief. I think if you believe in your abilities or your company's abilities and the products that you are able to represent, then your belief is you can really help these people. And if you're not being an empty suit, if you are being authentic, that actually all of this comes together. If you are just trying to build a fake friendship with the hope to then be able to flip it to flog something, that isn't going to work. And if it does work, you're going to end up alienating. Whereas if you're bringing the authenticity and you've got the belief, at that point, that's when all this magic happens and you're actually building relationships that are two-way, that are giving both ways.
Yeah, and I'm curious, and this is, again, I'm curious what the words of 2020 are going to be. I suspect I've used some of them right now during our time together. But what I'd ask people to think about, this isn't the time to be fake, right? This is the time, and you said something about believe. And I'm a massive Simon Sinek fan. I gobble up everything that guy feeds me for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It resonates to me. But I remember watching it. I'll shorten it because I know we don't have a lot of time left. But I remember watching a YouTube clip with Simon Sinek and Ken Blanchard, if you know who Ken Blanchard is.
Indeed.
Yeah. And they were sitting in these high back chairs, and it was kind of like a TED Talk situation. They were getting fed questions from the audience. And Simon went on to say this about believing in about belief. If you believe in your message and you can deliver it with clarity, with conviction, you're concise with it, people will believe you. It's that simple. But our ears are at an all-time high. They're going to smell if you're just saying words and you're not backing it up. They can smell it in 2 seconds. And then, yeah, you are an empty suit.
Definitely. And those are the people that will be saying there that these tactics don't work, that this doesn't work.
Absolutely.
So it's all about it's about the heart. It's about the believing in what you're doing. It's about being authentic.
Yeah, and that's why I go back, Barry. And this is a lifestyle, right? This is a complete lifestyle. What comes easy and natural to me may not be easy and natural to somebody else, because in order for it to become easy and natural, you got to walk, talk, live, and breathe it. You can't just one day wake up and say, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to try being authentic today. I think I'm going to try leading with empathy today. Folks, it doesn't work.
You'd be an empty suit. Thank you ever so much for joining us, Larry.
That was my
Fantastic
pleasure.
session.